What's up, y'all? We are here for our weekly energy oracle forecast where we're taking a look at the week ahead to see what kind of spiritual and energetic weather we will be living in and being in. I had to start the video over a couple of times because I was like rattling on nonsense because I'm tired. I went to out to my mom's place today for her birthday, and I got up early to make presa salad and a cucumber tomato salad, like Southern style. So I made those two salads. And yes, you're right, tomatoes are not in season. So I had to go to a lot of places, and finally I found some heirloom tomatoes at a boutique grocer. And they were passable, but still a little mealy. So, but either way, see, we got it done. But anyway, the communication card, the throat chakra card came out during that first take. It's like, hey, you need to work on the communication here. Unblock that throat chakra and then maybe do another take. So we'll keep that in mind. I will say that Uranus moved into Gemini over the last couple of days, I think. This is when everybody's been talking about it. So I'm pretty sure it's happened over the last couple of days. And it is definitely like I'm feeling very like bold in my words, and I think that you guys would probably already describe me as a pretty straight shooter, but I have been even more diabolical than usual. So and I don't know whether that's been because I've been practicing restriction by speaking up when I would usually avoid conflict, or whether I have been reactive and spoken when I should have been quiet. I don't know, but it feels like on the other side of it, it was like speaking up for something that mattered for good, and that it's had a positive, like, I don't know, effective. It seemed effective. Let's just put it that way. So we'll see. Hopefully I won't have any horrible judgment befall me. All right. But yeah, so the way that we communicate, the way that the way that we're thinking, our thought process, whether we're open-minded or closed-minded, I think that's going to really I think we're going to expand our mindedness. I think that our ideas are going to be evolving, and we might have like new bursts of creativity and inspiration, but something is happening in the realm of mind and ideas and communication that is revolutionary. A lot of people have been putting the focus on like AI. I'm not a fan. I also am not going along with the idea that you gotta adopt it and embrace it, or you're gonna be that's it, it's gonna be all. And I'm like, I don't think we're there yet, because like everywhere that AI has been implemented, it's just shown that it is absolutely inept. So we'll see about that, but I don't really believe in using AI for pretty much anything, because it's so horrible to the environment. And because it's proven to be very faulty and inaccurate, and it drives people insane, and it rots their brain, it creates brain damage. So until there's more advancements and more regulations around AI, I'm not even really wanting to fuck with it, if you know what I mean. And then also, just as a spiritual teacher, I want to give you guys the stamp of rotary notarized that I am not using AI to discuss things with. I am not asking AI about anything spiritual. That comes from my discernment. And that's another thing that I feel like people are sort of losing their ability, or even not pursuing their ability to sharpen their own discernment and their own form of intuition and prayer and turning inward, because they're just outsourcing it to AI, right? And so I think that is causing a lot of damage that people aren't thinking about, and it's preventing them from having gifts that they don't realize that they're not being able to cultivate, because they're just going straight to the easy thing. And for me, it kind of feels very like golden calf. You know, it's like, oh, I want a quick fix. I want something that'll give me a clear answer that I can really depend on. I'll be certain about it. I'll be sure about it, you know, and nothing comes for free. Nothing comes with a free price tag. I remember this movie called Bedazzled, and it had Elizabeth Hurley in it and Brendan Fraser, and it was kind of a hokey, cheesy movie, but it had like such a good message, and it always like really stuck with me, just like the imagery of that movie. But basically, like, he was this like kind of nerd that was like not very popular at work. He had a big crush on this girl. And Elizabeth Hurley's like this beautiful, like, suave devil. She's the devil. And she goes and tells him, like, oh, yeah, I'll grant you some wishes. Like, I'll give you anything you want. And he's like, I love Allison. I want to be with Allison. So he keeps trying to, like, wish these scenarios where they're going to be together. And every world, every timeline that he wakes up in these fantasies, there's always something like, they're always like married or like gonna get together in the fantasy, but there's always something like really off. Like, it seems like everything's going well, but there's something like that turns out to be totally tainted about every scenario, and that like she kind of ruins the wish fulfillment and stills the fulfillment part of the wish being granted. And there's so much spiritual truth in just that movie in that way. But I think that is, AI can be a very tangible example right now of when we discuss the concept of bread of shame. When we take light that we haven't earned, it usually comes with a hefty price tag, and it results in some form of negativity or chaos, some form of process that you have to go through in order to have earned that light that we took, right? So I don't know. I think that this is a good time to, rather than invest your energy into learning how to, you know, navigate and prompt artificial intelligence, I think it's time to strengthen our own inner ear and inner voice and our own imagination and our own talents and skills, because that human touch, that human spirit, that human authenticity, that human edge, it can never be replicated. No matter what AI can rip off and steal and try to like do an impression, it's always going to be kind of a poser, right? So just something. And I think that, you know, these kinds of things can give us a lot of anxiety. I know that like Gemini moving into Uranus moving into Gemini has left me like without sleep the last few nights. I've been thrashing, tossing, turning. I know there's so much in the world that can be weighing on our mind right now and giving us anxiety, but I think that is such like not an aggravating force, but it's like agitating the water. Not in a negative way necessarily, but Uranus is so like the energy is so bold and sudden and provocative, right? So it feels like it's stirring the pot in the air, even if we can't quite put our finger on it. And I think it's causing us to have disembodied anxiety on top of the anxiety that we already know. Like, okay, we know there's quite a lot going on in the world right now that's like adding to the anxiety. But there is also this sort of like extra layer of like psychic noise and kinetic energy, I think just from that big movement right there. So I think to, you know, watch your mind, watch your thoughts, and watch the things that are creating that anxiety for you. And instead of just like passively trying to resist the anxiety, follow it back, trace that anxiety back to what's creating it, and then take proactive, inspired action. Whenever I am feeling the most overwhelmed and anxious about life, and I think that I'm gonna have like an anxiety attack or something, it's usually because I haven't taken the actions that I need to take, and either something's been sitting too long and it's become too big in my mind, or it's been piling up on me. So when you can take a proactive action, and even if it's just step by step, one little action at a time, that starts to really calm the nerves and start to cultivate that inner peace. Especially if you can actively, with presence, try to like observe those thoughts while you're taking that action, and watch the anxiety dissipate. Feel the difference. Be really present and proactive with the process as you're doing it. It's like when Eckhart Tolle is talking about how, you can hate doing the dishes and you can want to avoid them, but if you can just be really in the moment and make sure the water's nice and warm, and get yourself a nice dish soap that smells pleasant to you, and enjoy the warm water and enjoy the smell of the soap, and enjoy getting your fizzies, your soap suds super fizzy, just anything you can do to kind of enjoy the process of it. So whatever it is that you're, feeling anxious about, the first thing you want to do is just try to pause yourself in that moment and create enough distance where you're not like in the drama. You're not in the soap opera, right? Like we can watch the soap opera and we can see the drama playing out for what it is. But when we're caught up in the scene and we're in it and we're like part of the plot now, it's like it's hard to remember that, oh, I can just watch the soap opera from the audience and I don't have to be in the drama actively like reacting to the emotions. I can observe those in myself and get curious about them and see where they take me, see what they show me. Then I know what to do from there, right? And then you can choose, okay, I know I'm anxious and I know things are strained in many ways. I know there's a lot of threats around me. I know, like the Psalm says, though my enemies circle round about me by the 10,000s, right? We're going to be fine. We're going to be delivered. God is good. And he strikes the tooth of the wicked and hits the cheek of the evil, or something to that. I always love that line. God strikes the cheek of the wicked and breaks the tooth of evil, or something like that. It's the best. Like, yeah. So, there we go. If you're anxious, try to maybe even do a little bit of meditation this week. I'm not always very good at like taking the time to sit down and do meditation, but when I do, it really does help, especially if I'm doing it like once a day and I do it consistently. It does build a sense of like inner chill. And I think that it can take you down a notch, like maybe permanently, if you have no chill, and then you have like a consistent practice of meditation for a little bit. I really think it can calm you down, because there was a while there where in my life I was not chill at all. I was very high strung and I had a lot of anxiety. And I was that person who was like feeling the impatience and like, all the time, when I was the person at the store that was like, and sometimes I am now, but most of the time I'm chill. I'm at peace. I have a inner quietness now. And I'm not even the person who's done constant, meditation, but I have over time done it in spurts. And so I think even if you can get results doing it that way, I think that you can get some. So imagine if you were, had a regular practice, right? Our next card is the sacral chakra. This is the chakra that is like our fertility, right? Our creativity. And so if we've got the voice, right, ideas, creativity coming up and around anxiety, something about our anxiety, like we're worried that our ideas, like we're worried about being creatively blocked, or we're worried about our ideas not taking off, something around that nature. So I think that the more we release that anxiety, the more freely the creativity will flow. I also feel like prompted to talk about the fact that like me and every other woman that I've talked to have had ferocious periods over the last few months. Like it's like we are taking on the collective pain body and alchemizing it through our menstrual cycles. And it has felt like I have a demolition project going on in this area. When they show pain in a commercial and it's like red, like it's been very red. But yeah, so if you have been having like extra cysts or like debilitating cramps, or just like heavy flow, like when The Shining, when the elevator opens and all the blood just like rushes out into the hallway, you're not alone. And I recently me and a coworker were talking about it, and I brought up that Eckhart Tolle had written about this, and it was either A New Earth or The Power of Now, but he talks about the pain body. And we each have an individual pain body that remembers all the painful things that we've ever been through, and probably the pain of the generations that came before us in our bloodline. But we also, as humanity, have like a collective pain body, like we have a collective consciousness. And so women, Eckhart Tolle says that when we experience menstrual pain, we are feeling the pain of the world. We are processing the pain body on behalf of the world. And I think that we are just about tired of that. But yes, you are not alone if you have been just feeling like really taken out by your cycle recently. So maybe give yourself some gentleness and grace, and maybe don't push yourself super hard. I know that usually there's not a lot of choice, a lot has to get done. But if you can, if there's an option, give yourself some gentle time through that. Apathy. Okay. So for me, the last couple of years have had me on the verge of apathy. And I'm not an apathetic person, but like the amount of noise and intensity and disruption and just worrisome things going on, and just the struggle of having to work so hard and still be poor. I know a lot of people can relate to that. It almost makes you feel a total like lack of motivation to keep going, because you're like, like it's easy to feel like, what's the point? Or is there any hope, or even just, when you're fighting a lot of things at once and there's stuff coming at you from every angle, it's not unnatural to find yourself feeling depressed, and to feel that apathy. And I think apathy can be an expression of depression. Just feeling like you don't have the motivation to do anything because you're like, what's the point? Like, and you're not feeling the same enthusiasm and optimism and excitement about things. And I think these are passing moments, right? Because I feel them too, just doing, all the, the adulting, and then also putting in a lot of time in this platform to do this work. And sometimes I get tired and I get worn down and I start to feel this way and I start to feel this way. But when it comes down to it, I'm like, but I wouldn't want to quit doing this because I love doing it so much. Like, even if, I took a couple of days to just take a break, I would still get right back to it, So I think too, if you're feeling like just this inner rebellion against doing the things that you always love doing, give yourself permission to take a break, to give yourself, a little bit of time. And you might find that you don't even want to take the break, right? I remember it was suggested once, and I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been in the book Big Magick, which Liz Gilbert wrote about the creative process. And it was, I think maybe in this book that I'm taking this point. So forgive me if you recognize this from somewhere and it's not from that book. But the idea was that if you're feeling procrastination and you didn't want to work on like a creative project, that you should set aside some time where you don't let yourself work on it at all, like for a couple of weeks even. And once you're like, you're not allowed to work on this, not for 2 weeks, you can't wait to work on it. It's like, oh, nothing can stop me from taking this on. It completely like cures the apathy. So, don't get too hard on yourself. If you need to just give yourself a break, then give yourself a break. I was coming in tonight and I was so tired. I had nothing to give. And I was like, you can take the night off if you want to. No one's going to live or die because your video did or did not come out. Unless I predicted something that saved your life. But I was just like, you know what? It'll be fine. And then I was like, yeah, I'll just start to warm up my dinner and then just take it one step at a time. And by the time I got like the pots cleaned and my really good Chinese dish that I made from scratch, On the burner, like, you know, slowly heating up, I was like, all right, let's do it. I'm feeling good, right? So, you know, maybe just shift gears, give yourself permission to take a little bit of a break, and you'll want to get right back at it again. And let's grab one more card, because sometimes when the chakra cards come out, I feel like we don't get as much from those. Oh, and awaken. Okay, this is really awakening a lot of energy, a lot of inspiration, a lot of new illumination, new ideas, new reflection. I think it's interesting too. We have we're approaching the full moon coming up, but we still have a few days. So remember, like a few days ago, we were trying to take advantage of this waxing phase. And I did get I got the Substack set up for monetization. I didn't get to like launch it yet, and I need to do Patreon. But if you have something like that you want to give a lot of zest behind, this is a good time to be taking those actions. I was going to mention a minute ago that the sun, which is represented by the sunflowers, which I planted in my garden, I've got one sprout coming up, so I hope the other ones do. The sunflower follows the sun all day long. It's always facing the sun. It's always looking for that light. And so that's one thing that we should do to model ourselves after the sunflowers, always to look for the light, always. And that will help us in these situations when we're feeling anxiety and apathy. You know, I've never been a proponent of negative or toxic positivity, because I'm a very honest person, and like I'm not even that good of a liar to myself to be toxically positive. Like, I'll see the dark side. So it's like I have to challenge myself many times to look for the silver lining in things and put my eye on that, like focus on that, not being in denial about, you know, all the other things, but making it a point to use my free will to choose to look at that, or to look for the light in any given situation. I remember talking about this, I think probably in the 2026 prediction series, but this year, the numerical value of the year has the same numerical value as the Hebrew word for judgment, which was, you know, my Kabbalah Center head teacher, Michael Berg. I was going to say my rabbi, but I don't know if he considers himself a rabbi. But the head of the Kabbalah Center, Rav Michael Berg, pointed out that because it has that numerical value on this year, that things will be really extreme. You'll either be experiencing a year of blessing or judgment, and it could be, you know, going back and forth at any given time, oscillating, but that's going to be dependent on your consciousness, right? If we're looking for the negative, then we're going to feel the pain and the anxiety of everything going on. And if we look for the light in the situation, and I'm going to distinguish this, I'm not going to say look for the good in the situation, because some situations it's not good. There's no good in that. But when you can look for the light in the situation, something good can come on the other side of a situation that was mired with darkness. And so that's what we're looking for. That's what we are as Kabbalah students, or you guys maybe not Kabbalah students, but I am, right? But as mystics, as people who are alchemists out in the world trying to make a difference spiritually, we are looking for God as God is moving through situations. So I think it's no secret that I'm not like a big fan of this administration, and I don't really care much for Donald Trump before he was president either. I thought he was a dick. But the one good thing about him being in office again is that it is so impossible to look away from everything in our systems that are broken and that are corrupt and that are dark and evil, and in the systems and within our people, right? Because we see that he reflects the worst characteristics about people and emboldens them and brings them out and validates them. So people have really shown who they are in a lot of ways. And I think this awakened a lot of people to think about themselves and the world at large, and to maybe take a deeper look and to take another look at Jesus's message. You know, it's just like politics, right? Like if politics are too comfortable, then people sort of are like, oh, it'll be fine. I don't have to pay close attention, right? But when it's absolute chaos like this, then it forces people to care that don't usually care. Well, I think too, the same is true for like these terrible hate groups that are twisting Christianity and using it to weaponize their own agendas and manipulate people with. I think that the positive outcome of this is that so many people in the world, believers and non-believers, all these different people from all these different religions even, have been fighting for the truth of the gospel. And they've been saying, no, this is not it. Actually, you're liars. And you have been pulling the wool over people's eyes. And the truth of the gospel is this. And people have been learning how to embody what it means to love their neighbor and to feed the hungry and clothe the people who need clothing and you know, all of these you know, the tenets of when Jesus was like talking about calling people out, like you didn't go visit the poor, you weren't good to me because you didn't feed the hungry, you didn't feed you didn't give water to the thirsty, you didn't visit the prisoner, you didn't help comfort the sick. You left people unclothed. And they're like, when did we do this? And they're like, when did we treat you like this, Jesus? And he's like, whatever you did to the least of these, you have done to me. And so like when you sit there and you have systematically, ignored people in need or whatever, like you're doing that to me. And so like people have started to understand that more deeply and more tangibly than ever. And it wouldn't have happened had there not been a very negative, very ugly, very abrupt and abrasive disruption in this way. Now, Kabbalah teaches us that when we are, discerning these things, it doesn't mean that the perpetrator or the wrongdoer isn't still on the hook for their negative actions. They still have to pay for what they've done. They will still face the judgment of their wrongdoings. But where the adversary or the opponent uses that person as a vessel of evil, God, what we are looking for when we're looking for God to move through the situation is that we know in our certainty that God can come in and foil this person and turn their plot into a snare and a stumbling block. And actually what their trap that they were laying out for us ends up being their undoing and then exalting us in the process towards something better. So, even Judas, right? Judas is sitting at the Last Supper next to Jesus. And, there are all the disciples. Jesus is like trying to get it through their head, like, y'all, you're all about to betray me and I'm going to get arrested. And this is our last nights together. And they're like, no, it's not going to happen. You're a liar. Or like, you can't be this way. He's like, no, it's really going to happen. And they're like, tell us who it is. Like, tell us who's going to betray you and we'll tie them up so they can't. Like, we can stop this. We can stop this. And Jesus is like, I will go, the way that it is written for the Son of Man. Like, I will walk down this path the way that it is written. We'll go through with it. But he looks, at Judas in the Chosen. The scene is amazing. He looks at Judas and he goes, but it would have been better that person had never been born. Like, whoa, can you imagine? One of the philosophical questions I've had my whole life was thinking about Judas. Like, if he was destined to do that, did he still have a choice? Like, yeah. And you see it play out. Like, he could have chose another route, or could he? Right? Like, some of these things are predestined for, to be in our movie, but at the same time, we still choose how we navigate those scenes. Right? So Jesus is like, yeah, I guess this has got to go down, but it's still not going to go well for the person that betrayed me like this. And I'd hate to be him, right? And I always wondered, if there is like one single Antichrist person, like, are they just like a devil born, you know, in the earth? Or are they a regular person because they're destined to be this person? Or is it anybody's guess who it is, and some, like, the conditions produce this person by their own choice? Like, I always had those questions, like, do they have free will? Are they going to be punished for being the evil person? Like, do they, like you know, I always felt kind of sorry for them, in a way. But then when you see the people and the evil that's going on in the world, it becomes easier to not feel sorry for them because you're like, how could you choose to act like this, right? So I think we're awakening to quite a lot right now, and to a lot in ourselves and a lot in the world. And I think the more that we are looking for the light, the way that the light can move through, I think that's going to be the thing that fights the anxiety and counteracts the apathy, and brings us back into a state of lightness and faithfulness and hopefulness. What I was going to say too is that the sun shares light that emanates from itself, right? It's eternally sharing. So the sun represents the light of the Creator because it's eternal and unwavering. I mean, I know that stars eventually burn out, but that's what it represents. It's very long term. Whereas the moon represents the human soul. Like, we have, the human being has no light of our own, but we reflect that light, or we're a vessel for the light of the Creator. And we don't have the wisdom and the knowledge on our own, but we reflect the light that we're given off of the sun. Like, we look to the sun shines on us, and we reflect that back into the world, right? The light, the Creator gives us our light, and we reflect that back in phases. Today I was in my new moon phase, very dark, not reflecting light. But yes, I think that we are awakening. I think that the moon also represents things that are subconscious and that aren't obvious to us. They aren't revealed yet. And so I think that, like, see how the bodies are under this veil, right? The veil was drawn so that we couldn't remember the fullness of who we are and the fullness of eternity. And we're forgetful, and we believe this limited 3D world, right? Because the veil has been drawn. But we're stirring awake, and the veil is becoming thinner, and it's easier to see through. And I think that we're seeing past our limited thinking, and we're seeing past our anxiety, and we're even facing our fears and seeing past those. And we're seeing our subconscious defense mechanisms and our unconscious belief systems and our unconscious mechanisms that go on autopilot and just play out reflexively. I think that we're learning how to disrupt those things. We're learning how to disrupt big things in the world, and we're learning how to disrupt things in the microcosm within. All right, y'all, that is all for tonight. I will see y'all tomorrow for our weekly anchor message. Until then, may peace be with you. Ciao.